of all, good afternoon. Our main motivation is not to play football, is not to be a party crasher. Our main motivation is to improve as a sportsman, as a team, as towards the AFCON in this case, and we need to treat our opponents equal because we know 4 teams are competing for that World Cup slot or maybe 2 slots, and it's in the same way if you have to go to the hospital for assistance by a medical doctor, you expect to be treated equal, whether you are the neighbor of him or a friend of him or if you don't know him at all. And the same is in football, in coaching, or when you play competitive sports. You have to play the game, you have to respect all the opponents the same, whether they're neighbors or friends or maybe people you don't even know. And we have to treat this game as serious as it is for all the teams. And we are sportsmen, and we have a duty to give our best on the pitch. And whatever is then the outcome can be best influenced by a good performance. And that is our major motivation and objective, to bring a good performance, and then we will get the deserved result. Sometimes in life you can be a bit unlucky, sometimes a little bit lucky, but at the end, in the long run, you get what you deserve. And we deserve to be at the AFCON, but when you look at the results, we didn't deserve to be at the World Cup. That doesn't mean we have to now put our head in the sand. Heads in the sand. We have to work. We have to go still 3 months to go to the 2.5 months to go to the AFCON, and that's for us alone a motivation. We are responsible for our situation. Others are responsible for their own situation.
So, coach, obviously, preparation for a game like this takes weeks, months, whatever process it takes for you. And you've got all these plans laid out, and then a situation happens that takes you out. How much of a blow was it for you? And then the second question is, having a new assistant coach, what has Caetano Tembo brought to the team?
Okay, the first question, I didn't hear it properly.
The first question is about obviously the plans that you had, and you have an assistant who you've been in the process with, and then the next minute, the next minute withdraw. How much has that impacted your preparations? And then secondly, the coming in of Caetano Tembo, and what is he bringing to the team?
Okay, look, yes, I brought Caetano in. Actually, the plans were quite go back until last year when I started in July, but he was starting at his club in a position called senior coach, and he didn't get the release 100% for the qualification for the FIFA period. It would have been a little bit a challenge for him, so we postponed it. We stayed in contact, but it was clear when the draw was that we again against South Africa that this is going to be a hot topic later in the year, and then you must just find the right timing. And I think it was the right timing when I proposed that ahead of the AFCON, ahead of this match. We played 2 times South Africa in a period of 2.5 months. He knows South Africa in and out. I think he lives here 27 years. But never mind, we have 14 players, I think, who had previously played or relation to South Africa. Then Caetano, then me also. I worked for 4 years in the South African Football Association. And so we have a good insight. Caetano, apart from the special knowledge South Africa, he brings another dimension, experienced coach, well respected also as a player, loyal person. The way he played is also as a person, and sure is if Coach Takeshire would be here, the integration could be a little bit smoother, quicker, but it's not that I don't know Caetano. I know Caetano since 2003 and we played against each other. Me as a coach, he was a player at the Warriors, and then he was in my coaching courses during the time when I was in the South African Football Association, and we stayed in contact. And so um, it's possible, and it works good so far. You remember when I arrived last year, it was 2 weeks before the FIFA period, not even 2 weeks. And we also found very quick a way to work together with complete new staff, people I never worked before, people I never knew before, and we could settle in very quick. I think we can deal with that. And yeah, we will see what comes out, but we are very happy that he's here. He can bring a dimension to the team. And when we are again complete, hopefully, it's not in my power, then we will have a very good technical team for the AFCON ready.
Right. Chogoz Dube from Far Coast. Coach, you've not had the best record with the Warriors, and obviously there's question marks about you as a coach. How important is this game in terms of restoring confidence in you as a coach of this team?
It depends how a defined record. No? I think had an excellent record the first 8 games. We didn't play a single home game, unlike South Africa. Um, we qualified for the AFCON 1 game to spare. We were only controversially defeated in the first 8 games 1 time. Then we tried a little bit to increase the depth of the squad. We took a little bit of risk in June, because that is the only period in the calendar year where you can bring players in and test. We gave established players a rest, or if they had small injuries, we rested them intentionally, that they are ready for the AFCON. Everything was designed then for the AFCON. On the other side, we tried to turn the ship in the World Cup qualification around. Yes, the last 2 games, the results were not the way we wanted. We can admit that. Nevertheless, the performance, I think, against Rwanda was a good performance. In Cote d'Ivoire, we had a little bit challenges, I must also admit, in terms of aggressivity, in terms of work rate up front, in terms of pressing, some one-on-one defendings. But I think that we really analyzed that, and that the team will be ready. It is clear that not everything after the first 8 games can go always up in a team development process. I think you should know it. The first 2 years when your coach arrived, it was also not just everything gold. You turned it around during the AFCON. You lost even the first game that time against Mali, if you remember. And since then, you turned the ship a little bit around. If you define the record as a winning percentage, I worked in another country before. I had a winning record of 69%. That's a very high level. And then it came the most important game, and we didn't win it. It was outside circumstances. I couldn't influence that time. It was a war. I don't tell you now where, but it was a war. And the focus and the match fitness and all the things were not there. And then you lose the decisive game. At the end, you have a winning record of 69% and you didn't qualify. I'd rather take a lower percentage in winning rate and qualify. Very simple for me. It's about achieving objectives and not about achieving winning rates. Teams won championships with, I think, only winning 1 game in a whole championship in regular time. You can do your research, which team I mean. It's about achieving your objectives in football. Nevertheless, winning gives confidence. Yes, you have to develop, you have to progress, and we are on that road. We want to have a competitive team and the AFCON. We would have taken the opportunity if the results in the last 2 games would have been better, maybe to still compete for the World Cup qualification. But I took over in the middle of it. It was already 4 games played. So it was not a real easy task to turn that ship around.
Good afternoon, Coach. Something over there, Coach, I'm getting the impression that your main objective for this game and the next games going forward is to build a good team for the AFCON. Um, so, in a game like this, do you, in your scheme of thoughts and planning for this game, do you maybe considering giving a chance to players that maybe haven't proved themselves, or are you just thinking of going cutthroats for the best team that you have and trying for good work here?
I explained before, we have a duty as sportsmen to take this game serious. We cannot now start here experimenting, like in maybe in June, giving players just a test ride and things like that. It would be interpreted very quickly in a certain way. We cannot afford that. The history of Zimbabwean football is a little bit rocky, and we discussed that in length inside the association. We have to give our best; it's our duty, and so there's. It's not really. It's quite the team. I would say that's not an experimental team. You can see in the squad experienced players, players which were before qualifying for the AFCON. The one or the is missing for injuries or something like that. That can happen, but I think the squad is strong enough to pass this stress test. I mean, we don't need to beat around the bush. South Africa is currently among the best teams in Africa. They're playing home, away from home, or no, whatever we call it. Maybe you have better expressions. And if we can pass that stress test, then we are ready. I think then we are not far away to be ready for the AFCON. Um, we were not when it was discussed, so our players are tired of playing COVID games in front of 1,000 spectators in a 60,000 seater stadiums. And so, believe me, even opponents' fans will rather motivate them than paralyze them.
Okay. Coach, obviously you know South Africa quite. 50 men. Oh, sorry, Bafana Bafana from ENCA. You know South Africa quite intimately and with Gaetano there. What have you made of the team itself under Hugo Boss?
Can you repeat exactly? I
Yes,
didn't.
what have you made of South Africa under Hugo Boss? You know the
I mean, I said it before. The beginning was also quite rocky. I remember I read that time because I'm following South African football since many years. I worked here 4 years. Many coaches, top coaches from here went through my hands in education. If you make your proper research, uh, and I'm following it. And I can still remember that there was some clever advices given to your technical team, even during the AFCON after the first game. And you changed it around during the AFCON last year. In when was it? Yes, last year in January. So the last 20th month, yeah, you progressed constantly, steadily. The confidence grew. Very strong goalkeeping. Um, was at that time also very crucial, and that's how it is. Sometimes when you build your confidence, then you the self belief grows, and also you took very smart advantage of the stadium situation. Yeah, I mean, when this campaign is over, you have 7 out of 10 games home, not travel stress, not much logistical stress. You have always 1 or 2 more training sessions than the other teams. Um, it also has some reasons. Then you had with the under 20 good works, you had with the Chan, you find a good way to start the competition a little bit later, like other teams, very smart. So you were very good in that to develop, and you have now, I think, a very good depth in the squad. You make how can you say, your preliminary list consists of 45 players. 45 players in a preliminary list. I'm not yet on that level. Yeah, that I can say. So we know South Africa progressed a lot. Very clever, very smart use of the last 2 years. Um, of course, the coach has is an experienced coach, and has a big influence on that, no doubt about that. But you also see your clubs, how they're performing in Africa. So all worked very perfect in a certain way, but in the AFCON, all the teams have the equal base. Every team has the same traveling stress. Every team has more or less the same resting time, the same amount of training time. Maybe in the preparation, you still have a little bit, maybe a week more advantage because most of your team plays in South Africa, and I think your league finished quite early. But I think then in the AFCON, it will be quite an even platform.
Two last questions, please. My brother there.
Yes, coach. Malila here from
No, I'll take the one.
Malila from SABC Sports. And we learned from Morocco, eh? Morocco qualified for 2022 like that as well. Playing more matches at home, but that was going for another day.
You see, I didn't even think on that. Yeah?
Yeah.
I will note it, yeah, and bring it forward.
Yes. Coach, I was looking at your Champions League team, but Zimbabwe. They lost to Zingzini Hotspurs from Eswatini, so meaning that there will still be no Champions League football for Zimbabwe. How much of these results are keeping you away from having competitive players because you derive most of your talent from home teams?
Our team is derived, we have a different team because of our diaspora situation. We have a very diverse team in terms of background or where they're coming from. This again requires a lot of logistical planning, administrative support. It has a lot of higher costs or much higher costs are involved to bring a team together. You lose 1 or 2 days training. And so our team is a diverse. We try to blend everything together, but of course, if our champions would play, say, in the semi-final of the CAF Champions League, it would be a different testimony. But you must still see that Zimbabwe football was readmitted, I think, 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago, and then because the season starts then in January, it's a calendar year season. So when the Champions League starts, it's not that team which is currently, when you look at the team Zimbabwe last year and this year, they lost some players to other teams. And so it's very difficult to compare in that way. Never though, they are on the second position in the league, still strong. But you must also see it in football, these smaller countries. I worked in some bigger countries, but also smaller countries. FIFA is, and CAF also, is helping a lot in terms of football development. I also benefited when I was in South Africa from it. And the smaller countries have a certain advantage. Development can take place double as fast than in the big countries. And if they are supported and properly developed, then the outcome can be very quick. And I watched, for example, the game of the Eswatini team in Botswana when they played Zimbabwe. From a technical level, it was good. It was really good, at least on this day. I do not follow these matches all in detail, but from a technical level, it was good. You could see that there is some work done in every country. I know it from my former country in Seychelles Island, the smallest country in Africa. There's also efforts, although much more difficult because it's a remote island nation and there's much smaller population. But these smaller countries, you can the, 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 the top club teams consist very often are very similar then to the national team or to a large degree. So they gain double or triple experience, international experience. And you cannot underestimate any team. I mean, we are anyway not in a position to underestimate any team. But I think that is also strong reasons that they progressed, but it was a tight penalty. It can happen in football. Um, I haven't seen the return match, if I'm honest, no? So I cannot really evaluate it in detail. I can just make my conclusions on a more reasonable argumentation. No?
Okay, I'll take one question from you. You only have 1 minute, so please make it at least short.
2 minutes we give them extra time. No?
Okay.
Coach Uzeka Peter Indonesia. You are all against Bafana Bafana that's under pressure of fighting, and you on the other side, you maybe looking at finishing on a high note and probably strengthening your rankings, finishing that you can get more like good rankings in the World Cup. How do you make this game going against Bafana Bafana, taking that advantage, finishing with good rankings, and also bringing the youngsters like Tando Wenya from Madundo FC that know some of these players that will be playing against tomorrow, and also the youngsters like Tawanda. How that works for you, beating them with the balancing with some of the experienced players. Musona was played here before in tomorrow's match.
How can I? Actually, I thought I answered almost all of that before, but we have an experienced squad blended with some youngsters who starts or who comes from the bench or who will sit on the bench. I cannot even answer. Last time I wanted to play a player, then all of a sudden he had an Achilles injury. Then things like that can happen. So we can only answer tomorrow how we play. And sometimes the coach also has a gut feeling he wants to change maybe at the last minute something. I mean, Bafana is, of course, they are in a good position to qualify. But 4 teams can still qualify. And it's their responsibility to deal with that situation. We are, again, our prime motivation is not to be the party crasher. Our prime motivation is to be proper footballers, sportsmen, fair competitors to all involved, to improve as a team, to not be accused of anything improper, because also it's a duty, as I explained to you before, and bring a good performance, and then to get the deserved result out of the performance. We are looking on ourselves. There's one more FIFA round coming in November, and then basically it's the direct preparation for the AFCON. And for us, this is very important because when I came, to be frankly honest, 1 year ago, not more than 1 year ago, it's 15 months ago, it was not, how can I say, I think nobody really counted on us to qualify straight to the AFCON after the ban, after the things. The team was not in a high moral. And then we really achieved what we wanted. That was the primary target. The World Cup qualification was a double project, like we wanted, like a hybrid project. We wanted to turn the ship around. We didn't achieve that. But there's no reason now to be to doubt or whatsoever. The players, we have good players. We have some experienced players, respected players in South Africa. We can be get confident in the game to be a real how can I say, a real competitor. Yeah? And I think that's what the spectators also want, and I think also South Africa. I think you want to qualify, but deserved qualify. Yeah? And so if you want to deserve qualify, you need also to bring a good performance. Yeah?